Hey guys, welcome back. So today I thought I'd talk about how I actually became a collector, and this was inspired by a video that I recently watched from Pete Dorr, which was why I became a video game collector, and also my good friend Jenny as well. She made a response as well, which was really great to watch, and it's good to see Jenny back. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a crack at this because I quite like this topic, and it's interesting to analyse, you know, why we did it, what got us into it, where we are now. So for me, it all started in 2003. So in 2003, I got my place. I was living alone, didn't have a missus. I had a decent job, money rolling in, so I had plenty of disposable income. So I was just buying stuff like you do, you know. So I was like buying films and music and, you know, the usual kind of thing, clothes and, you know, all the stuff you spend your money on. I was 26 at the time, so, you know, I had a lot of drinking. And yeah, I don't remember the exact reason why, but for some reason I decided to buy a Super Nintendo. And I got it in my head that I wanted a 60Hz one. I assume it's probably just because of the whole thing I'd heard growing up about, you know, 60Hz is better because you get a bit full screen, full speed. And of course I did experience 60Hz when I was a teenager, when the SNES was a current system, because my older friend Brian had a Super Famicom with a Magicom, so I played a mixture of PAL on my own console and NTSC on his, and I don't think it really registered with me at that time, the differences. I remember reading about it in magazines, but I don't think it actually was something that I took notice of. I just, you know, he got the latest games, that was all it was all about at that time. So yeah, in 2003, I went and purchased a Super Famicom in the box, absolutely immaculate, from videogameimports.com, who are still around today actually. So I bought it from their website for £80. I was blown away when it arrived. I remember it arriving, taking it apart, and you pull the lid off, and the console and the controls were all bagged up, and everything was absolutely pristine. I was proper chuffed with it. Now I don't know why I didn't go for the American system. I can only assume that I probably at the time looked at the price of importing on eBay and just thought, no, it's not worth it. I'm better off just buying Japanese because I can get some stuff from import shops over here as well as import direct from Japan. So that's probably the reason why I did that. But yeah, I remember I got a Super Famicom, and I don't know how long after that it was, but I ended up buying what I thought was a Japanese Mega Drive, but I know for a fact now that it was actually an Asian Mega Drive, so it had been Asian PAL, which is a bit of a shame. And I just started buying Super Famicom games and Japanese Mega Drive games from Video Game Imports and also from eBay as well. And I had never had any intention of being a collector. Now, you know, when I was growing up, I had a good childhood, can't complain at all. Parents were brilliant, and, you know, I did quite well. You know, I had a Commodore 64, I had a Commodore Amiga, and then I bought my own Super Nintendo by doing a paper round. But I know most of the games I had were pirated on the 64 and the Amiga. I had a handful of originals for both, but the majority of the time the games were pirated. And then the Super Nintendo came along, and I only had a couple of games because I couldn't really afford, because they were so expensive to buy them. So I experienced most of my SNES stuff through my mate Brian. And then when the PlayStation came along, everything was pirated again. So, you know, I'm 26 in 2003, I got a Super Famicom, I got the Mega Drive, and I just started buying the games for it. And I was picking up all the games that I played when I was younger, and games I'd not heard of, and I was doing research. And I still remember finding out about Final Fight Tough, which is Final Fight 3 in Japan. Never knew that game ever existed, and I don't remember exactly how it happened. But it must have been on a website somewhere, I came across the information about this game existing. And I contacted, I think his name's Lee, who runs Video Game Imports. I remember contacting him via email and asking him about this game, and he was like, yeah, it's called Final Fight Tough and we have a copy of it. And I was like, ah, cool. Now at the time, it was really, I think at the time the game was like £100 it was going for. It's like double that now, probably a bit more. I think it's about $250 now for a box one. So, you know, that's not bad actually, because it's like 17 years ago. So that's not bad actually. You'd think it'd gone up a lot more than that. I did eventually get a copy of that. I managed to get 3 copies in the end. One from New York, one from China, which was probably bogus because it was too cheap. It cost me 12 quid, so it's probably fake. And I don't know if the other one came from Japan or got it from Video Game Imports. I'm not sure where I got that one from. But yeah, this is really when the collecting started to become a thing, because I got the Super Famicom and I got the Mega Drive, and then I sort of got the urge then to look at other systems, and I started thinking to myself, well, what else can I go? And this was 2003, so I'd got my original Xbox. That was all modded, and I was pirating games on that as well. and I had the hard drive done so you could just burn the games direct. So that was my main system at the time, current gen system. And I don't know the exact order of how it happened, but I just slowly, because I was picking up these Super Famicom games and these Mega Drive games, of course I was building what is a collection. Not intending to do so, I just wanted to buy the games and play them and enjoy them. But I already was picking them up in the best condition I could get them, as immaculate as possible. You know, and Mega Drive's easy, Super Famicom, fairly easy. You do have to go through a lot. Even now, you look at one game and there's like 50, 60 auctions, and you have to just drag through them to try and find the best condition one. But yeah, I think that's where it really began, that I just started picking those up gradually and built a collection for both of them. And then I just migrated onto other systems, and literally between 2003 and 2008, I had the Super Famicom. I've got to remember all these now. The Japanese Mega Drive, I had a Neo Geo AES, a Neo Geo CD, a Neo Geo CD-Z, a Panasonic Q, Atari Jaguar and Jaguar CD, which was a great deal because a guy had a pallet full of brand new in the box Jaguars and Jaguar CDs, and he was knocking them out for £150 for the two. So I remember grabbing that and being like, I can't believe this deal. So I had that. What else did I buy back then? I was buying everything I could get my hands on. I had an Amiga CD32 briefly, which didn't last. I had an Amiga 1200. I don't know if I got a 500 back then. I don't think so. I think it was just 1200. I eventually bought an American Super Nintendo. I ended up buying a couple of those. I got the Donkey Kong Country pack. I remember having that. And I think the Killer Instinct pack was another one I might have got as well. There was a couple in my wardrobe. I had them stacked away. And so, yeah, I was just basically doing what every collector does. You know, you start off, I'm just going to collect for this system and that'll do. And as I say, it wasn't really the idea at the beginning. It was just to buy games and play them and enjoy them and just relive the classics, as well as finding out about new games. And it just developed into a collecting mentality. And unfortunately, that then, when 2005 came out and the Xbox 360 came out, by that time I'd had 2 years of collecting, and I'd really got into that collector mindset. And this is where it started affecting current gen, because I got a 360 in December of 2005. I was the first person to pre-order at my local game. Well chuffed about that. There at 7 o'clock in the morning, waiting for it to open. Lunatic. In fact, no, it wasn't. It opened at 7 o'clock. I was there about 5:30 with my flask of tea, despite the fact that I pre-ordered and I was guaranteed a console, and I'd been given a phone call to say so, but hey, whatever. So yeah, this is where it starts getting mad. Between 2005 and 2008, where I started to lose the plot a little bit. I bought the 360. I don't know, let me see now, the PlayStation 3 came out in 2007. I think it was 2006 in America. So I know I bought a 20 gig PlayStation 3 from America. I had that shipped over. I don't know which order, when these consoles come out and how I did it, but I know I got a 360 Elite, and I kept swapping between 360 and PS3 for years. So I had the 360 standard, I had the 360 Elite, I had another standard one which red ringed but managed to fix itself when it cooled down weirdly. I had the PS3 20 gig, and then in 2007, I don't know when it was exactly, but the PlayStation 3 came to the UK, Europe I suppose. I picked up a PlayStation 3 60 gigabyte, £425 on the day, which was just insane. Plus games like Resistance Fall of Man. I don't know what else, but I know there was a couple of games that I picked up. I can't remember the launch lineup. And yeah, and as I say, I was just going back and forth between the two, trying to decide which one to keep, instead of just being logical and just saying, just buy them both. You know, I could have done that, and I did do that, obviously, so I should have done that. And this is really where the collecting thing started to get a bit out of hand. And, you know, I was doing that, and what was I thinking about then? There was something I was going to say then, and I've just forgotten what it was. But yeah, I was still buying the retro. I was still buying the Super Famicom. I even remember one time I saw a copy of Turtles in Time in the box for Super Famicom, and it was not expensive at all. And I said to my best mate, "Oh, this copy's on here, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Well, you should grab it because, it might not come up again." Yeah, well, it's now 2020 and you can still buy a copy. Yes, it's going to cost you a few quid, but you can still buy one. So yeah, that's really how my collecting began. Just purely out of, for some reason, buying a Super Nintendo, and then it snowballed from there. It's weird because my parents aren't collectors. I don't know anybody that's a collector, and it was just something that sort of became a thing. I became a collector. I didn't decide that I wanted to be one. And I say, growing up, most of my games were pirated, so the actual physical media really wasn't that big a deal to me. It isn't massively nostalgic for me being a collector. That's not the reason I really do it. I really just buy it because I like the systems. I like playing the old consoles, and I like buying the games and playing them and enjoying them. Now, of course, as time has gone on, in 2009, well, first of all, in 2008, I decided to move down to the southwest from Birmingham. When I did that, I sold a lot of my stuff, and the reason for that was because basically I didn't want to take too much stuff with me, because it's a hell of a journey, and I wanted to take as little as possible, as well as raise funds, because the place I was moving to needed a lot of work doing to it, so I had to do it up. So I thought, well, the collection can just go, it's not that important to me at this point, you know, I can always buy it back in the future. So I did that, and I did, at that stage, I'd gotten rid of the Super Famicom and everything, and I had a American SNES with a couple of games, which, if you go right back to the beginning, my first video, I think it was where I show when I've settled into my new home and I started doing YouTube in 2009, was when you see the first couple of games. Like, I think I had, I know for one was Super Star Wars, I can't remember the rest. I didn't have a lot, just a couple of games. And then of course 2009 rolls around, as I say, I do my first video for YouTube after watching YouTube for quite a while and commenting on people's videos in the community. And that's when it really began. That's when I would say I actually became a proper collector. You know, I'd been doing really well up until then. I'd got a lot of stuff, and I was sort of all over the place buying this, that and the other console and buying games and everything, enjoying my Super Famicom. But really from 2009 till now is when I became, I would say, an actual collector, because then YouTube just took over and it just become insane. And you know, if you followed my journey, you know how it went. I've had ups and downs, and you know, I've had a lot of stuff. I've had sod all, I've had something in between. You know, I'm still in the middle somewhere. I'm a lot more settled with it now. I know where I feel. I know how I stand with it all now. But yeah, I think doing YouTube was really the thing that tipped me over the edge. And it just, because I loved doing YouTube right at the beginning, I was knocking out videos like, I don't know how many I used to do a week, but I used to do quite a few, and I was just doing them all the time. I was constantly buying stuff. There was games coming in, there were systems coming in. You know, I was building up a really nice American SNES collection. I really focused on that and was doing videos where I was doing the package, and you'd unwrap the package, show the game, and then eventually I started doing it where I'd unwrap the package, show the game, and then do some gameplay at the end of the video as well, which I know helped influence people to buy games that they probably shouldn't have bought, but they just thought, well, I'll give it a shot. Which is not, yeah, it's not a bad thing, is it really? And yeah, the YouTube journey, as I say, I then met people, that built community of people in the UK and people in America, and it was a really great time. And you know, we're all feeding off each other, and I was absolutely loving doing the collecting, and it was going great up until 2016, when I just imploded basically. And I decided at that point I was had enough. I was out. I was done. Never going to touch it again, because it was just, it got on too much. I was buying, selling, buying again, selling, rebuying again, and just losing the plot and not really taking control, and just saying, right, I need to just take a break and come back to it in a few years if necessary. And you know, I did at that point take a break in 2016. Then 2017, it's only a year later, but I was in a much better place, and so I started to collect a little bit more. I quickly realised it wasn't really for me at that time. I realised I'd made a mistake. So in 2018, I sold everything. And then more recently, in the last year or so, I've started again. And I know it seems like rinse, repeat. Obviously, I've gone through it myself in my mind, because that's what collecting will do to you. It will psychologically mess you up sometimes. You know, some people are great. They can just handle it and just doesn't have an effect. But you know, there's outside factors that make a difference as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't regret collecting. I don't regret starting buying all of this stuff. I really enjoy it. I'm at a point now where I really am quite content, because I'm not buying for multiple systems, and that's where you find a problem, at least I have anyway, is when you're trying to collect for maybe 4 systems at a time, and you're not focused on that one system. Back when I started YouTube and I started being focused on American Super Nintendo, and it was great, because I wasn't spending loads of money all the time, and I was just trying to find the games I really wanted, getting good deals. You know, I wasn't rushing it, and I had this nice focus of this one system. There were other things on the periphery, obviously, that we saw in the videos, but for the most part, my channel really was about building that SNES collection, and I did really well. I got to like 126 or something around there, box games. I was quite proud of that collection. It was really good. But you know, also being a collector means that you have to know when you're beaten, and if a time comes when you need money or something happens in life, it's only stuff. And yes, it's nice to own it, and it's great to have these collections, and it, you know, it brings a lot of joy to you. But realistically, if you have to sell, you have to sell. You can always buy the things back later when you're in a better position, you know, because at the end of the day, life comes first, not collecting. But yeah, I'll never say I regret it at all, because I don't. You know, we live and we learn. Hopefully, I've tried to, and it's been a journey, and it's been a good one. I mean, you know, back those early days, man, when there was no YouTube and it was just me on my own, buying games, buying consoles, experiencing consoles like Neo Geo, which I never thought I'd experience in my entire life. You know, the Panasonic Q, which actually, by the way, didn't work. Unfortunately, I got a duff one, so I was a bit annoyed about that. I mean, I remember I got a Sega Genesis Model 3 at one point as well. I blew that up, so that was good. Yeah, so, you know, of course I've had N64s as well. I've had most, if not all, of the mainstream systems, I think, to be honest, at this point. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. You know, I wish that at the time, it had been possible, because at the time, obviously, I didn't have smartphones, so I didn't have a camera. I wish I'd had a video camera, just bought a cheap video camera, just to document it, and I'd kept receipts and things, just so I knew what I'd paid for games. You know, that Final Fight Tough always sticks in my mind, that I got it for $24, which at the time was £12 from China. So it's got to have been fake. I mean, you know, it was going for £100 elsewhere, so it had to have been fake. A bloody good fake, because I couldn't tell the difference. But yeah, it was good times, man. I remember sitting there on my widescreen CRT, widescreen unfortunately, but that's all I had at the time. Playing Street Fighter 02, the Japanese version. Yeah, it was great, man. I just wish that when it came to the current gen stuff, I hadn't done what I did. I mean, it even happened this generation with PS4 and Xbox One. I'm now settled on PS4, and I've been like that for a while now, and it's been great. But there was a time where I was going back and forth between those two as well, and it was getting silly. I only did the Switch once though, so that's pretty good. That's progress, I think. But, you know, I mean, I think everybody has got, you know, similar stories when it comes to collecting. You know, everyone starts collecting for different reasons. You may have an intention to be a collector. You may, like me, just have thought, I'm going to buy a system that I loved as a kid, and then you just sort of become a collector because you buy games for it, and it evolves over time. And then you have your journey up until now. And I say YouTube is a great platform. It's a fantastic thing to build communities and to meet like-minded people, which is the reason why I did it initially, because, you know, I think most people do actually. But back then, I had absolutely no idea in 2009 that anybody else was buying and collecting video games, because I was like, why would you do that? You know, you hear about stamp collectors and baseball card collectors and, you know, coin collectors and all these other collectors and doll collectors, but I never heard about anybody collecting video games. Now it's just perfectly common sense, commonplace even, that people just collect video games, and now the prices have gone mad because of it. But back then it was a completely different situation, you know. Yeah, good times, man. So anyway, if any of you guys want to do a video as well, please do. I'd love to see some responses from guys in the community. I'd like to hear your stories as to why you became a collector in the first place, and how you began collecting, and what your journey has been up until this point. It'd be really cool to see that. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this has sort of been interesting. I wanted to try and cover as much as I possibly could remember. But there you go. So leave your comments down below, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.